What's up, YouTube? This is Too Raw for TV. Alright, so this is another requested video for one of my subscribers. And in this particular video, he wanted me to do a comparison between Chris Bosh and Kevin Love as to who had the better career and the better peak of their career. Now, of course, when we think of these guys today, due to the effects of the mainstream media and how they tend to downplay a lot of guys that play with a certain guy, who shall remain nameless, we tend to think of these guys now as quote unquote role players, but in reality, both of these players at the apex of their careers had a all-star, if not superstar, trajectory. That gets forgotten. Matter of fact, I believe Chris Bosh's last season with the Toronto Raptors before he signed with the Miami Heat, he averaged 24 and 10. And there were years with the Minnesota Timberwolves that Kevin Love was putting up 25 and 13. He was putting up double-doubles. And this was in an era where, the pace was a little bit slower than today. So, both these guys, when I think of them, I tend to think of them as two guys who had to completely alter their games in order to fit playing with LeBron James. They both struggled at times, and they both struggled initially. I think Bosh seemed to struggle more in some ways. Bosh struggled more. But Kevin Love's game, I think, suffered more. How can I put this? Because I got to be careful with this. Kevin Love arguably suffered more mentally because he had to go see a psychiatrist, a therapist, if I'm not mistaken, because of the struggles he had being in that situation, the stress of being successful in that situation. It got to him. However, I would make the argument that Chris Bosh got more criticism from social media as well as people who should have known better in the mainstream media. And yes, I'm talking about Skip Bayless, but he wasn't the only one. It got to the point where they were even questioning the man's manhood. Both had similar struggles. They had to learn how to play on the perimeter. They had to learn to do and adapt to other things in the game. They were both used to being the focal point of offense. Now they had to, learn how to do other things. Play on the perimeter, shoot better from outside, play perimeter defense at times, especially with Bosh. Both of them had to lose a lot of weight to be more mobile. Learn how to properly set screens and just learn to play off the ball more. And they both struggled, but both ultimately became very, very valuable assets to their respective teams. Chris Bosh, of course, won 2 championships with the Miami Heat. And Kevin Love, of course, won a championship with the Cleveland Cavaliers back in 2016. Let's look at their respective accolades. See if I can pull that up here. Now, Kevin Love in his NBA career has played with, I believe, 3 teams. He drafted by the Minnesota Timberwolves back in 2008. He played there 6 years. Then he would play 9 years with the Cleveland Cavaliers. And since 2023, he's playing with the Miami Heat. Now, of course, in the downside of his career at age 35, he plays very sparingly. But his resume includes being an NBA champion. And I know some people may say, well, 35, well, Steph's about to be older than that. Well, some players age differently. Kevin Love has not aged very well in the NBA. But anyway, Kevin Love is an NBA champion, 5-time NBA All-Star, 2-time All-NBA second teamer, He was the 2010-2011 Most Improved Player. He was on the All-Rookie second team back in 2009. He was the 2012 three-point contest champion. He led the league in rebounding in 2010-2011. And for his NBA career, he has averaged, okay, I don't see it up there, but before I get there, he won Olympic gold in London in 2012 and the FIBA World Championship in Turkey in 2010. Now, let me see if I can go to his stats. For his career, he's averaged 16.5 points and 10.2 rebounds in 921 games, as well as 2.3 assists. He has shot 43.9% from the floor and 36.9% from three-point range and 82.9% from the free throw line. So he's been effective. He's a very good free throw shooter. He's a good three-point shooter. His field goal percentage is not that particularly high. But then again, he takes a lot of outside and mid-range shots. So when you consider his shot selection, that's not that bad. His career PR rating is 20.8, which to me is indicative of a guy who is at least a borderline all-star career. His best years were 2010 to probably 2000 and you could include the Cavaliers years, but when he was playing with Cleveland, he had a different role. But I guess I'll include the Cavalier years since he was an all-star twice. Let's go to 2019. So let's go 2010 to 2019. Let's say those were his best years. During that 9-year stretch, he averaged 19.9 points, 11.6 rebounds, 2.5 assists, shot 44% from the floor, 37.3% from downtown, and 83.2% from the charity stripe. So, there's that. All right. Let's look at Chris Bosh's resume. And Chris Bosh played for two teams. From 2003-2010, he played for the Toronto Raptors. And from 2010 to 2017, he played for the Miami Heat. Now, of course, he had to prematurely retire while seemingly in the prime of his career because of a health condition, blood clots. So he theoretically could have been playing a lot longer, man. You know, at least he could have played until perhaps even now. He's 39 years old. You know, he could have been perhaps just winding down his career, if not right now or not now, just a few years ago. So he missed some vital years to add to his career. But anyway, his resume: 2-time NBA champion, 11-time NBA All-Star. He was on the All-NBA second team in 2007, the NBA All-Rookie first team in 2004. His number one is retired by the Miami Heat. He has career averages of 19.2 points, 8.5 rebounds, and 2 assists per contest. He won Olympic gold in Beijing in 2008. He won the bronze in the FIBA World Championship in Japan in 2006, and the bronze in the FIBA's America Championship in Isla Margarita in 2002. Try to look at his prime years. His career PR rating is 20.6, similar to Chris Bosh. Also a great free throw shooter. Was not originally a good three-point shooter, but became a good one as his career progressed. And he was more accurate from the field than Kevin Love, 49.4% for his career. I would say his best years were 2005 to 2016. And during that 11-year stretch, 20.3 points, 8.6 rebounds, 2.1 assists, 1 block, 49.8% shooting from the floor, 33.5% from three-point range, and 80.9% from the line. But to put emphasis on how he became a better shooter with the Heat, with the Toronto Raptors, he was a 29.8% three-point shooter, barely taking them. With Miami, a 34.4% three-point shooter. As a matter of fact, his last two seasons with the Miami Heat, he shot 37% from downtown. So who had the better career? Well, obviously, it's Chris Bosh. He's in the Hall of Fame. And his numbers clearly indicate a Hall of Fame career. And it would have been even better had he not had to retire so early. Kevin Love, on the other hand, is his Hall of Fame trajectory or Hall of Fame claim is it's not solid. The problem is his peak years with Minnesota were not very good. Well, as far as he was good, but the team was terrible. Terrible. I mean, then again, he didn't have a great team around him. I think, his teammates might have been like Kevin Martin. I can't even remember those teams, to be honest with you. I can't even remember those teams. Off the top of my head, I can't remember. Was Wally Zerbiak still playing? No. Wally Zerbiak was still in the NBA then. Was he? No. Zerbiak was done then, right? Yeah. He wasn't in the NBA anymore. Maybe at the very beginning of his career, Zerbiak was still playing. I can't remember. But anyway, his team was not very good. I would give the edge offensively to Kevin Love, peak-wise. But before I go forward, let me just say, I think career-wise, the edge goes to Chris Bosh. Peak for peak, Kevin Love may have had the edge offensively. The guy was being compared to Moses Malone, had a 30-30 game. He was a shooter. He could shoot from outside at a high clip, even back then. That would be even more valued today. He would have more spacing. His game back then, which was sort of still a little bit more of a niche to be shooting from outside as a big man, it would be much more appreciated today. We were just getting into the analytics age back in 2010, 2011. So I think that his game translates very well to today's NBA. Of course, his weakness was that he was not a great defender. He was not fleet of foot. He was a much better rebounder than Chris Bosh. That can't be refuted. This is a guy that was averaging 13, 14, 15 rebounds a night for a while, for a couple of years. He was doing that before he went to join LeBron in Cleveland. Chris Bosh, in his prime, was probably putting up 22, 23, 24, 8, 9, 10 rebounds. The Chris Bosh in Toronto was more athletic than the Chris Bosh in Miami, because he had to physically, I think, change his body, lose weight, and I think that affected him physically. I remember the Bosh in Miami was not a strong rebounder at all. Not that he was a great dominating rebounder in Toronto, but he got worse in that regard. He lost a lot of body strength. But he became more skilled in Miami. Learned how to play off the ball. His passing, his shooting, his range got better and better. His shooting got better and better in Miami. And I think today the Miami version of Chris Bosh would be much more valued than he was when he played in Miami. The the area where Bosh has a huge advantage over Kevin Love is on defense. That's where he has a big advantage over Kevin Love. So, in my opinion, career-wise, no doubt about it, it's Chris Bosh having the edge. If you're talking about peak for peak, you know, I would go with Bosh. I just think Bosh was more well-rounded. If you're more into just offense, then you might say Kevin Love. Both of them were bad teams, but at least Chris Bosh was taking the Raptors to the playoffs. Kevin Love was not doing that. Even if you do talk about, well, the Western Conference was stronger, so that could be an excuse. But that's how I look at it. Peak for peak, I would go slightly with Chris Bosh. Career-wise, I would go with Chris Bosh for by an even larger margin, and that's saying something considering that Kevin Love is still playing. Chris Bosh played for about, I think he played for about 13 or 14 years. Kevin Love has been playing the NBA for, I think this is his 16th season. So, it is what it is. Chris Bosh went to, I believe, 4 NBA Finals, winning 2 of them. Kevin Love has been to, 15, 16, 17, 18. I believe he's been to 5 NBA Finals, winning 1 of them. Now, of course, he wasn't the man on any of them, but his contribution was much more vital back in 2016 for the Cavaliers than it was, say, for Miami last year. But yeah, I give the advantage to Chris Bosh on both ends, longevity and peak for peak. But tell me what you guys think.